So Sarah, can you tell us about how Ice on Fire came to be? How did the concept evolve?
It started in 2007 as a sort of concept of using the materials of ice and ash, and it was a piece about climate change at the time. And after 3 or 4 months of working with ice and ash, it was an incredibly heavy piece of material to be working with, and I knew at that point that some other element had to come in. And at that stage, I then wanted to transform the ash into something else. I knew that going just down the line of the ash and the ice was too heavy, and I wanted to transform it in some way. And then I came to a Lent course here, and I was sitting looking at the tower space, and I thought, one of my hanging ice pieces there would be very powerful. And so I came to see you. And amazingly, you said, yes, why not? So, I was...
And I'm so glad I did, because it's amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about the process of preparing the piece, and particularly about setting it up today, because this week and today has been a hive of activity at St Ethelburga's.
It has, it's been very busy. Well, I arrived with a block of ice this evening, sort of with half an hour to go. It's been very hectic. And so literally I got out of the taxi, went up an extremely tall ladder, and hung the ice off the meat hook. And I'm very stunned actually by how powerful the meat hook and the ice is together. This is the first time I've used the meat hook. Before I was using a much more genteel meat hook, but this is a very powerful object. I think I said in my talk, it's an instrument of mass slaughter. And I think it adds weight to the piece, and I'm really looking forward to when the ice melts and the linen is released, because actually you'll have the frailty and the vulnerable linen strip hanging from this rather vile object. And I think the contrast will be very interesting. It's been very hard work, but it's been very enjoyable, and it's lovely to see people enjoy it and just sit with it. And what's been interesting is that we are actually stripping stuff away, because the piece has got such a resonance, and the sound piece with the bowls is so powerful. It doesn't need an awful lot of other stuff. But I am looking forward to seeing how the musician Attab and the poet Philip interact with the piece, because I think that's going to be very exciting.
What does it mean, this eerie sound? Is it time itself we hear unwind? Can truth, like jewels, be suddenly found? Our planet threads will fray, unwound. Our task, perhaps, to weave and bind, to ignite the fellowship of hallowed ground. One day, to see the teachers crowned, the wheelchairs walk, the killers kind.
How are you feeling at the moment?
Well, it has just whizzed by actually, and I'm feeling very present, I think is the word. I'm not even thinking about, the next bowl going down in 2 hours' time. It's very much in the here and now. which I think is what the piece is about. So it's lovely to see it unfold, because as I said, I set up these processes I said in my artist talk, I set up the process, but actually I then have to let them go and they run themselves. And that's the surprise to me in seeing how it works, and just to see how it resolves itself. And that's part of the piece, really. It's important that I step back.
But there come times, perhaps this is one of them, when we have to take ourselves more seriously or die. When we have to pull back from the incantations, rhythms we've moved to thoughtlessly, and disenthrall ourselves, bestow ourselves to silence, or a severer listening, cleansed of oratory, formulas, choruses, laments, static crowding the wires.
In your eyes, your slow grace. All are aghast at your unburned lips. The lips of a child that breathed whatever was, and the world became. In the swift hands of the wind, or the curled palm of the waves, the world became. And the child in you stood naked by the shore. Between the syllables and the music, between the mystery and the meaning, a new love burning in the silence. A new love burning in the silence.
Stars splash in the hearth of the heart. The world is green and beautiful, and all living things decay. All you do not need is falling away. We are hooked on ice and falling slowly. Percussion melts us, drip by drip. Glaciers are collapsing into the sea. What I search for searches for me. What are we waiting for in the tumble of this time? I will speak of what I hear and tell you of things to come. The sound of gold stars splashing on the hallowed ground. The alchemy that sings us through, here in the space of the songbird's infinite ear. Bring the hidden into the light. In the old darkness, souls flourish. The lace is woven in the emptiness for the golden race. I cradle you in the unknown. I bury you. You are born. You melt, we flow. As above, so below. Alchemy splashes like a child in a puddle. Let the hallowed dance be wild. They have made you new in the presence of a moment, in the gift of the walk back up to the light. The sun waits for you like a bride. In the radiance of silence, you look through golden eyes.
So we've been here for 23 hours.
Yeah.
We've got 1 hour to go until sunset. It's 5 o'clock. How are you feeling, Sarah?
Good. I'm feeling very grounded, actually. I find the whole experience very grounding. I think partly because it's been a measured period of time. Every 2 hours we've placed another bowl, and I think it's had a very good rhythm to the process. And very privileged, actually, to have been able to do this work here, and the interactions with people and the sort of the variety of music, poetry, readings, silence. It's been very rich, very rich.
You mentioned the interactions with the people and some of the things that have been going on. What have you observed happening in the space? What have been some of the things you've really noticed?
I think I've enjoyed people walking up and down the space. I think something about being in your body, about walking through a piece. And also, making their own artwork and poetry, and just people coming and going. It felt a little bit like a sort of thoroughfare in a way, of silent thoroughfare. Quite often in a show, you're only there perhaps for a couple of hours and you don't see the whole process.
So what's been the most exciting thing about the whole thing so far, given that we haven't finished yet?
I think the most exciting thing was to see the 12th bowl go down and then look up the building, looking up the aisle, and see the 12 bowls stretching from east to west, or actually from west to east, that's the way they laid out. And just thinking, this looks like a spine coming through the building.
What do you think you'll remember most?
Sleeping here, sleeping with the piece. I mean, I went to sleep very quickly because I was very tired, but just to lie in the semi-dark and just hear that drip going. I think that's partly why I feel very grounded. It's been this backdrop of the sound piece of the water dripping into the bowl has just been constant for 20 hours, 22 hours. It's just still going. And I was expecting actually the ice to melt quicker than it has done and there to be a silent period, but I actually don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be still dripping when we leave the building tonight.